Before there were cities, before there were temples, before there were kings, someone placed their hand against a cave wall and blew pigment around it. When they pulled their hand away, a silhouette remained. Not an animal, not a god, a hand. A mark that says, I was here. These handprints, found in places like Cueva de las Manos in Argentina, and deep within caves like El Castillo in Spain, are tens of thousands of years old. We do not know their name. We do not know their language. We do not know their fears. But we know the size of their hand. And in places like Cueva de las Manos, the marks multiply. An eruption of hands from the rock, reaching beyond their moment. Sometimes, someone carried firelight into darkness and pressed their palm against stone far from the sun. They did not need to make that image to survive another winter. It did not provide food. It did not provide shelter or defense. And yet, someone made a mark. Why? What is art for? It appears wherever humans appear. Even in hardship, even in uncertainty, even in war. When everything else is stripped away, humans still make marks. Why? Why do we keep making images? Why decorate tools? Why carve stone? Why compose music? If art were unnecessary, it would have vanished long ago. And yet, it persists across continents, across centuries, across every culture we have ever known. Art is how we insist on being more than biological. Art helps us live, not just survive. It gives shape to time. It gives texture to memory. Look around you. The chair you're sitting in, the table beside you, the cup in your hand, the light above your head. None of it had to look the way it does. Someone chose its curve. Someone chose its angle. Someone decided how it would meet your body. Art does not begin in museums. It begins in use. In 1956, designers Charles and Ray Eames introduced what would become one of the most iconic chairs of the 20th century, the Eames lounge chair. They said they wanted it to feel like a well-worn baseball glove. Not stiff, not ornamental, not formal, inviting. The chair was made from molded plywood and soft leather, material shaped with care to cradle the human body. It was modern but warm, industrial but intimate. This was not a throne. It was a place to sit at the end of the day, to read, to think, to rest. Post-war America was rebuilding domestic life. The Eames did not design monuments. They designed for living rooms. They understood something essential. Design is art meeting the body. The objects we live with are not neutral. They guide posture. They influence mood. They quietly shape behavior. We shape our objects, and then our objects shape us. The cave hand said, I was here. A well-designed object says, this is how I live. But art does more than serve the body. It serves desire. Across centuries, humans have asked, what is beautiful? In the 5th century BCE, the Greek sculptor Polykleitos created a figure so balanced it became a model of perfection. The Doryphorus. It was not a portrait of a specific man. It was an ideal. Every proportion measured, every muscle calibrated, weight shifted in perfect balance. Beauty became something mathematical, something ordered, rational, controlled. But beauty is not fixed. In one culture, symmetry. In another, abundance. In another, restraint. Are we born knowing what beauty is? Or are we trained to see it? But beauty did not end in ancient Greece. In our own time, the artist Jeff Koons created something very different. A 42-foot tall puppy covered entirely in living flowers. His sculpture, Puppy, stands outside the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, Spain. 38,000 flowers, seasonal, replaced, alive. It's cheerful, almost absurd, a monument not to perfection, but to delight. There is no ancient formula here, no canon of proportions, and yet, people smile, children laugh, adults take photographs. Sometimes beauty is order, sometimes beauty is perfection, sometimes it's simply the feeling that the world, for a moment, is gentle. Art is woven into daily life in ways we barely notice. Consider kente cloth from West Africa, hand-woven textiles of silk and cotton, whose patterns and colors carry meaning. Historically associated with the Akan peoples of present-day Ghana, kente was worn by royalty and leaders, not as decoration alone, but as language. Each pattern has a name. Each color carries symbolism: gold for wealth and spiritual purity, blue for harmony, green for renewal. To wear such cloth is not merely to cover the body, it's to communicate who you are. Art lives in fabric, in pattern, in repetition, in ceremony. The cave hand said, "I was here." The woven cloth says, "This is who we are." So what is art for? For marking existence, for delight, for knowing who we are. Art refuses to let life remain purely functional. It insists we will not only survive, we will shape the world. We will decorate. We will aspire. We will leave a trace. Because to make art is to resist disappearing. And in a universe that does not promise remembrance, art is how we answer back.